Hey, instead of making a jewelry box, I have to switch it up because I keep making the same things. I get bored and I don't want to make them. So today I decided that Cadence is not going to get a jewelry box. She's going to get a treasure chest. Now, I made two of these for my two oldest granddaughters. They were about, I'd say, maybe 4 feet long and 1.5 feet or so, 2 feet wide, high. And they had hinges on them and had their names engraved in them. They were all decorated. That was a long time ago. So what this is going to be is sort of the same thing on a very small scale. So what I'm doing right now is roughing out my pieces. This would be the bottom piece. This is 10 inches long. It's that cedar planking. Then I'm going to have 4-inch high sides, and I'm going to try to dovetail them all together. And then the lid part, of course, is these half rounds. And then what I have is these slats that will go along to make the actual lid cover. So, got a lot of wood cutting to do and sanding, and then I'll be back when I get some progress here. So far, I say rough cut because I cut them with a jigsaw and, scroll saw, which is not good for straight cuts, but it's all I've got, really, other than a handsaw, which it's way too hot to be doing that. I'm already sweating again. Today's supposed to be the last hot day. We'll see. But anyway, you get the idea. And then what happens here is, let's see if I can do this with the camera. And then the idea is that these get attached to these half rounds. And they go up and around. And when we get to the curve, obviously the width would have to be smaller to accommodate that curve. And get a new sander belt. I got a coarse grit one, which the one I did have on there before was medium. And it had been worn down so bad that it was burning wood instead of sanding it. So in any case, since this is kind of coarse wood, and like I said before, it's warped, the coarse grit did a world of wonders. So I've sanded just about all the pieces now, and I'm still fitting them because, like I said, with them being warped, they are not square. So you kind of you have to kind of sand them to fit by eyeball, if that makes any sense. But so I got all the pieces, and they're getting there. Like, there's this, you can see right there, there's a little bit of a difference when I fit those two together, so I would have to sand this a little bit. But anyway, the idea now would be to get them all fitted together and drill holes for the nails, because I never pound nails straight in, I always drill pre-drill. Get them glued and get these all joined together. And then, of course, this is the box for the bottom. Then the top, as I had showed before, is these. I got all my slats cut out. And it's a question of fitting the slats to fit up and around that curve. So, got to start drilling and fitting the pieces together. I'll be back. Good example of the warp that I was talking about. You just gotta try to eyeball it the best you can and then sand it flat. Battery's dying. So I only put the 2 nails in right now because if I need to take them out for any reason and readjust them, I can. So right there is a good example of the warp that I'm talking about. And then there's another at the other end that this board, it's really hard to catch it on camera, but I can see it with my eye that this board is warped out like this. But so I have to kind of work around the problem and sand it, fit it together as best I can. So let me continue on here. The camera doesn't fall. This camera falls every time I use it. You should see it's all beat down. Now the camera dropped 12,985. Jeez. There's a discrepancy right there that's going to have to get sanded because it's flush here, but not down here. So I'll sand that whole top. That's the inside. That's the sides. These will all get sanded, and then the bigger gaps will get filled with the wood putty. And yes, I do use the wood with the sawdust. I have a container. There it is. Sawdust. And what I do is when I clean out the belt sander, I'll save a pile of it because it's ultra fine. Mix that with wood glue and use it as wood putty. Okay. A lot of sanding to do. Sanding on the big box is done for the most part. Everything's kind of smooth the way I want it. The ends all match. There's some gaps, which, like I said before, I can go through and fix later. They're very small. They just look big because the camera's on top of them. They're not really that noticeable. Anyway, the end pieces have been sanded. And what happens now is I have to fit all these slats onto them because this becomes the top. And they go all the way up and around. And then they would get once it's a solid piece, it gets attached back here with hinges. But there it is. I'm starting to work on the top half of it now. The treasure chest build. So just crush between these. Careful around the top. Okay, thanks. A little sand in on the final piece to get that to fit in there. So get this on here, and then it's all sanding to get these high edges off and some wood putty business going on. Did you get the idea? I'll be right back. Top. And now I got to do some sanding. And there's the bottom of the box. This goes on top. Turn it around. And like I said, it's got some sanding to go. And then I'll end up putting some kind of a hasp type thing over here, but it's a nice little box that she'll be able to hide stuff in, or store things, or whatever she wants to do with it. And I think I'm going to put her name on the front. Maybe some other designs. So that's basically it. Like I said, just not a lot of finishing work now to do. And I'll be back when I get it more closer to the end. So I've been sanding the top, and more like it should, but there are some gaps that need some wood putty. And so here's a little jar with some wood glue. Set this camera down, get this out of here. Got a little popsicle stick here to mix with. And just mix this up. You get to play around with it to see how much glue versus sawdust you need. Depends on, you know, what you want to do with it. So there it is. I'm going to drop the camera on the floor again here if I'm not careful. Homemade wood putty. And it's just wood glue and dust from the sander. Alright, let's get this on the box here. Hard to do this one-handed, I can tell you. And so on and so forth till all the gaps that I want to fill are filled in. Alright, I think you got the idea. Patched. All my gaps are filled. And on the box as well as the bottom as well as the top. So now it's a question of all this drying and a final sanding to get off all the excess and get it a nice smooth look, and then putting on the hardware. I'll be back when it's time for that.